He said that with a smile on his face there, didn't he, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? A perfect performance is required, Kev. Does that mean that all of the pressure is on Manchester City because of the lead that they have?
Naturally, yes, you would have to say. Perfect performance. They've already shown this season that they can do it. So they can't be complacent, thinking the tie's over. But I don't see any hiccups tomorrow night. If I'm being honest, I just see them getting the job done. It's a huge task for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and his squad. The game could have been dead and buried in the first leg, but they've given themselves an opportunity. But he's kind of stated the obvious there. They need to score more goals than Man City. And there's not many teams done that this season. So, you know, it's going to be a tough night, but it should be a cracking atmosphere, again, like tonight's one. And like you said, it's a semi-final of a cup. Anything could happen, anything. United could get the first goal, all of a sudden pressure's on. But whenever Man City are generally under pressure, they normally come up with the goods.
Well, can Manchester United produce the same sort of performance that they did in the league when they were at the Etihad?
Well, I think the funny thing is with Manchester United, you never know what you're going to get. And they're capable of playing extremely well. I mean, you look at the game against Tranmere. I know Tranmere obviously a lot, you know, worse than them, and they couldn't, you know, shouldn't even be on the same pitch in some ways. But the way Manchester United approached that game, on the surface that they had to play on, their attitude was absolutely spot on, and they all delivered a good performance. Now, the week before, they looked terrible. So that lack of consistency, I can imagine Guardiola being absolutely furious that they conceded a goal, having been 3-0 up. But at the same time, the mentality of Manchester City when they have a 2-goal cushion is they don't stop playing, but they control the game. They have even more confidence at controlling the game and picking you off. Manchester United have to come out. That's going to play into City's hands. So I can just imagine City just having that mindset that we've got a 2-goal cushion here. You know, we're going to just keep playing our way, and that systematic approach that they have, I can just see them picking United off. Unless United get the first goal, you know, you could see City scoring another couple.
Because it's the second leg of a semi-final, does league form going into the game matter at all? Or is this a one-off?
I think it's a one-off.
A one-off of two?
Yeah. I know what you mean. I think it's, you know, when we see cup finals going into it, I think form goes out. It's whoever performs on the night, whoever handles the pressure, whoever takes their chances, and we saw it tonight with Leicester didn't take their chances, you know, they go out. So I don't see it being an issue. Of course, it's one of the biggest games in English football. Anything could happen. But I see Man City going, I wouldn't say comfortable, but I see them going through, you know, at least by 2 or 3 goals tomorrow night.
In fact, what you were just saying there, Graeme, about not sure what you're going to get, got quite a good tweet just come in. It says, I'd like to know the Palace feel Ole's project has shown it's the right direction, forward or not. I feel some of the games are the best to watch since Sir Alex Ferguson retired, but also some of the worst too. Cheers, lads.
I couldn't say it better myself. No, I mean, it must be so difficult for a coach when you prepare your team the same way each week. You see the lads training every single day, so you know who's looking sharp, who you're going to change. And then you go out and give them the template to go and put in a performance, and it's completely inconsistent. And you'll get players making individual mistakes that you can't account for. Then you have a breakdown in confidence during large spells of games where they suddenly look like they've never played together. And then you flip it on its head, and suddenly you get these great combinations and players playing well, with the young players coming in. Greenwood's excellent. You know, talented. Williams, the young lad, you know, again, he's going to make mistakes, but he's got good talent and plays with a freedom. But it must be painful for the coaching staff just to be trying to understand the inconsistencies.
Yes.
Guys, I've got to break some rather disturbing news to you. We're getting word that Ed Woodward, the Manchester United chairman's house, has been attacked this evening. A mob of 20 or 30. I believe pyrotechnics were involved as well. A really, really ugly escalation of the ill feeling. I'm not going to say that they are fans. I don't have any more information than that. But how concerning is that?
Well, at the end of the day, it's just a game, isn't it, football? It should never spill over to being personal. You know, it's a game that we all love. It's, you know, it's watched throughout the world, and you know, it makes you feel sick to hear that. To be honest, it's just.
Yeah, it's shocking.
I mean, there was already a lot of revulsion at some of the chants that were being directed towards the owners and towards Ed Woodward. But if this is just, it's beyond.
Well, there's no excuse for people behaving that way. You know, obviously it's criminal behaviour, and you know, no matter what you think of somebody within a football club, whatever their job is, they're trying to do the best they can, and you know, there's lots of reasons why Manchester United aren't performing consistently, and you could argue that you know, the structure of the club needs to modernise or change. There's lots of debate about that, but you can't take it onto yourself to then go and
certainly not onto somebody's family.
No, of course not. No, it's disgraceful. If that's you know.
They are fairly reliable reports, but since when? And we've seen this more. Since when we saw those joyous scenes we saw at Villa Park tonight? Since when did football become such an angry place? Well, I think we're seeing more and more of it.
Yeah, but it's you know, this has been used recently, you know, about football being a reflection of society, and unfortunately it is. You know, in that respect, you know, you can't protect a sort of a football from what goes on in the broader world. And you know, from my point of view, football at its best is there to entertain, for people to enjoy, to be passionate about. But there's a line, and you know, we're constantly fighting. Everyone involved in football is constantly fighting about protecting what's sacred, whether that's young players and how they're treated, grassroots football, all the way through. And unfortunately, you know, a sport can't be held responsible for actions of either individuals or people's behaviour when it becomes so volatile.
I can't comprehend where somebody could make the leap from a protest, being vocal about it, to this sort of thing. I just can't.
Well, it's what Graeme said. It's a line, and you know, you don't cross that line. It's just, you know, it's a sport. And you can't, you know, whatever's going on at Manchester United, whatever club, you can't just hold one person responsible, even if that person's the one who owns a football club, because it's a board. You know, they make joint decisions about whatever. You can't just blame one person and go and attack their house. It's just not ethically right. It's wrong.
Well, I mean, one of the things, I mean, it's not ironic, that's the wrong word, but Manchester United supporters have been disappointed with the transfer market, yet this evening they would appear to be on the cusp of a really exciting signing in Bruno Fernandes. It's with the lawyers at the moment. Medical's supposed to be tomorrow, maybe the day after, but it looks as though that deal is done. So that underlines Ed Woodward is doing the very best he can for that club.
Well, and I think ultimately you look at a club's recruitment policy, and you live and die by that to an extent, because when you get it right, absolutely fantastic. Clearly, Manchester United have spent huge amounts of money over recent years and not had the rewards delivered to them by the players and the coaching staff. So there's a pressure that builds up there. But I'm seeing more and more nowadays that you have to have a process and that you use as a structure to then bring in players in. Doesn't mean you get it right, but at least there's an element of consistency around that. I think also the other thing is how football clubs communicate with people, you know, with fans, and the relationship between clubs and fans as the game changes and evolves, and you know, more and more money comes into the game. Again, it's not an excuse for bad behaviour. But ultimately, I think
repugnant behaviour.
Well, no, that's, you know, I'm just talking in general terms. Yeah. You know, I think sometimes fans feel disenfranchised a little bit more from their clubs than they used to. But ultimately, you've got to sort of explain a little bit about what you're trying to do. But at the same time, you know that people are trying to make decisions based on the right outcomes that they want, rather than just saying, oh, well, let's just throw a bit of money over here, throw a bit of money over there, and see what happens.
You would probably. Why is this signing taken so long? And that's probably what's frustrating. You know, why don't you come out and give us a reason why it's taken so long? He's linked with United, 2-3 weeks ago? At the beginning of the window, and we gather he's going to sign tomorrow.
But as you know, Kevin, often it's not within the club's gift that it can do that. You know, as much as you'd like to be transparent, they say, look, we want to do the deal. We've done the deal with the player. We've spoken to the agent, but let's be honest, the selling club are taking the mickey, and we've got to posture publicly that we will not be held.
No, I understand that totally, but it's. I mean, we're talking Manchester United here in terms of pulling. 10, 15 years ago, they wanted a player, they'd go and get him, and it would be done straight away. I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
It's not that they do not have the pulling power that they used to have.
No,
it's as simple as that.
But let's go back. The player's a good player, you know, and if he signs tomorrow, he's a goal-scoring midfielder, which they've not had for a long time. We thought Pogba might have been the answer, hasn't quite worked out. But this kid looks like he could score goals. You know, he's 63 goals in 134 games. That's 1 in 2. Yeah. So good player.
Good age as well, 25, isn't he? And so it's exciting. And my point around the sort of the structure side of things is you've got to, when you're bringing a player in like that, you've got to see where he fits in with the rest of the group. So you've got younger players that are coming through. Does he block their pathway? Is he someone that is going to make those players better? And rather than just having a collection of expensive and possibly very good players, you need to do fit the jigsaw together, like Leicester have done. When we're talking about the balance in that team, when you see it, when I see United, I look at Manchester United. There are times I think, well, I don't quite know where he fits into that system. You know, Rashford, is he a striker or a sort of a left-sided inside forward? You know, and whilst he's young and he's got time to adapt, when you start playing a lot of games, you've got to really start to identify your position, don't you, and become established in there. And if he's got his position identified, then that affects who you bring into other positions.
I mean, the thing is, Manchester United, you can't get. They're in the midst of a big rebuild, and the buzz phrase we hear is a cultural reset. And when you are this self-styled, biggest club in the world, that's not going to be without pain, and it's not without several steps backwards to take some forwards.
And that for me is, you know, there's pressure being on Ole. Is he going to be sacked? Well, it would be bizarre. It'd be crazy for me now to go and sack him, because he's kind of building his jigsaw. You know, he's handpicking this player. He'll be in my system. If he could get one more in from the window shut, we're not sure. But then you give him the transfer window next summer. He's gradually built. So if you went and sacked him in the summer, all that hard work, them windows you've given him, someone new comes in with a different philosophy. Oh, I don't particularly fancy him. All of a sudden, you're on that rebuild again. So you're better off just sticking with it for another, unless it goes completely and terribly wrong. But I don't see that happening. You know, it's a gradual thing, and you're right. It's like a.
Can I sorry, Kevin? I'll just ask you something that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said today. He said that Alexis Sanchez, if he returns to the club next season, could surprise us all.
Certainly surprised me.
The bottom line is he's got 2 years left on his deal.
Yeah, and on great money, isn't he? So,
and if they don't want him at Inter, he's coming back.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah.
And there's no reason why they would want him.
No, he's one of these players that you just scratch your head with. You know, we saw his qualities at Arsenal, fantastic. Just come to United and it hasn't just happened. It hasn't happened. Well, I would love to see it. I'd love to see him come back next season, because it'd be just like a new signing again, wouldn't it? And he all of a sudden turns up pre-season, ready to go, and he's a different player. Wow, what a boost for Solskjaer. But then again, where does he fit in the team? He might have already identified.
You know, and this is the thing. He's seven games into 1 goal, 1 assist. For someone of his quality, he's not really made a huge impact there, has he? So understatement.
I can understand why, in many ways, Ole's got to say that, but by the same token, him coming back into the dressing room, surely if you're Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, you didn't want him in the first place.
Yeah.
You're going to move heaven and earth to make sure he doesn't come back to the club.
Yeah, and also you've got the fact that, you know, he came in under someone else's watch. It might have been a bit of a vanity purchase. You know, I must have the coach saying, I must have that player, in he comes. But again, you've got to have a system in place where there's enough of a filter to say, well, look, it might be what you want, coach, but he doesn't fit into our plan, and we're not prepared to give somebody that doesn't quite fit into our plan that much money, because effectively now everyone's trapped. The player's trapped, the club are trapped. No one's going to take him unless he's a massive subsidy. So it just becomes a massive, huge complication for the team. And he can't go anywhere, because he's not going to take a huge cut, I wouldn't have thought, to go and play football somewhere else. So it just becomes, you know, again, mistakes can be made. But I think you've got to do the most you can to mitigate those mistakes, to see, OK, if we bring this player in, how does he fit into the team? and what's his lifespan at this club, and then you work out, well, actually, how's he going to leave at the end of that? And if you go through that process, and to Kevin's point earlier, you know, they've had 3 or 4 coaches since Ferguson, Sir Alex Ferguson, and each one has tried to do their own thing in a very different way. There's no consistency in the way any of them have managed. And now Ole...
Is that part of the problem? Has that contributed to it? The change in managers, the change of systems, the change in culture there, is it all part of the...
It goes back to the identity, and like you say, that as Manchester United are saying about this reboot, you know, we need this cultural reboot. What does that mean? It means having a plan, having a long-term plan about giving yourself the best chance to be successful. And then you feed everything into that and do what, you know, we're seeing other clubs do and do very successfully.
I just think they've probably gone down, having Sir Alex for so long, Wenger at Arsenal, they've almost kind of gone down that route now. Perhaps clubs are too scared now to give a manager that length of time for that, because they see other clubs getting rid of someone comes straight in and makes an impact straight away, and it gives their team. You know, United have dominated for so long under one manager, so have Arsenal. I'm not saying that Ole's the answer. I'm not saying he's going to go on and dominate, but why change again? You know, it hasn't worked for the previous 2 or 3 managers. But give him a reign where he can prove himself.
But also, you know, if you've got a list of potential coaches, and you've got Jose Mourinho on the coach and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I would say that list is inconsistent just by having them 2 on the same list before you even start. Does that make sense? In the sense that you've got 2 very different styles of coaches, and if you're going to be consistent, I don't think you can have such a huge discrepancy between two management styles, or, you know, one manager who's got virtually no experience, one who's got huge experience but comes with a lot of baggage, and to go from, you know, Jose to Ole in one move, that's huge.